Alright, so last time we had a bit of a disjointed, weird mess of a devlog. Today we have an actual goal to work towards, that being our checkpoint and respawn system. So what I'm gonna do to make things slightly easier on myself is I'm just gonna put an enemy in here so that I don't have to walk all the way to where the enemies are. And our respawn point is going to be in here. So let's make some placeholder assets real quick. We can just make a cylinder, put that in here, and I guess we can just keep it at that. It doesn't really matter. Going to also make a sphere collider, which will be a trigger event and is going to have a radius that honestly we can just change with the collider itself. It doesn't need to be through the script. And let's make our checkpoint. So we make a checkpoint script. We'll keep start and updates around for now because I don't know if we're actually going to be needing them. What we will need, however, to be sure, is a on trigger enter. We'll get a variable for player, which is equal to other get component player stats. That's not where I meant to put that. And then if player isn't equal to null, the usual stuff, right? Let's see. We make a raycast hit, so-called hit. Then we can go with physics.raycast, but this will just be vector 3 down. And I'm going to make a level manager. So we'll make a empty object here for level manager, which we can just for simplicity's sake put at 000. It really doesn't matter. We can add a component. We'll call the new script for that level manager as well, and we'll get a reference to that in our checkpoint. We'll also need one in our player, but for now we're just going to say level manager equal to game object find level manager. It will need to be called level manager in every single scene, but that's not that big a deal in the grand scheme of things. Then in here we'll get a public vector 3 for spawn location, and we'll set level manager spawn location to hit point, meaning that now when we enter that collision sphere, the trigger sphere rather, we'll do a raycast down to the ground, and that will be set as our new spawn point. So when we respawn on the ground at the point where we entered the sphere to begin with. So in our player combat, when we die, I think I have set that in just updates. Hold on, does the enemy deal with the damaging of the player? Damage player, yes he does. Player HP damage, oh that's in player stats. Okay, we can deal with that. So if HP is less than 0, we don't reload this scene anymore. What we do instead, get some things from the checkpoint, namely that being this line of code in the start function, and then this variable as well. So we're going to set our HP back to max HP instead of rounding it to 0, and then we'll set our transform position to be equal to level manager dot spawn location. So we're gonna go in here, which will look at that. Spawn location has been set. That's fantastic. Mr. Enemy, you're supposed to not walk through there. That is my bad. I will admit that. You're not hitting me. You know what? I'm just gonna go and go to your friends. You're not doing the thing that you're supposed to be doing. I don't know why. I definitely should have just put in a instant kill button to test this. I probably will. I would very much like you to actually hit me. You've gotten all the way back here, you fucking... Anyway, so that worked, but also I need to have my velocity reset back to 0. So we can, before we do any of that, we can set my player get rigid. Hello? Where's my player manager? Oh, this class doesn't have a player manager yet. I need to revamp my entire player code. to be honest, because it's a fucking mess. We set the velocity back to 0, and now we're actually going to also real quick in my update function, which it doesn't look like we have in here, which makes perfect sense. Just put in an if input dot get key down. Key code will be, is it a capital we need? It's a capital we need. We just deal 100 damage to myself. I will also actually need to test whether or not it counts as my momentum, which is a bit more tricky, but okay. We set our location, then Z pawns us back over here, and I think let's just try to get killed and see if that fixes what we just had. But I think this should, in theory, be no problem in having knockback still be a thing. I should have just made the thing deal 90 damage so that I can kill myself easily and weaken myself for these enemies, but you know what? Okay, it still doesn't reset my velocity. Please attack me. Please actually attack me. You have one job. Sir, I'm trying to test something here. Could you please cooperate? Why are you walking away from me? You are literally a demon. This is actually insane. He's actually just not able to hit me. Could you please just... Thank you. At least I know my system doesn't work. I know why. I know why. That's because the knockback is being done through this player movement knockback. But that should be as easy as just turning these two around so that the knockback gets applied first and then instantly gets reset back to 0. At least you're in the room this time. Try to hit me. Okay, that didn't do what I thought it would do. Why not? Player movement. Let's see, we have a knockback function in here. Let's do this differently then, because we don't even need to generate any knockback if we're dying anyway. So we're going to move some code around. So this enemy does not need to concern itself with knocking back the player running, except it kind of does, doesn't it? In our player stats, in our damage taking, we'll also add a vector 3, or do we need a transform? What are we using here? We're using a transform, so let's keep that up. So we can use a transform enemy, and we're using a float for knockback. So then we can still set this all back to 0, but we only apply the knockback if we are not dying. So then we can go back into the enemy, and then damage gets our transform and knockback values. Don't need to concern yourself anymore with that function. Player movement doesn't need knockback anymore either, because that's going to be part of the damage function now. So we can just cut this all out, delete that altogether, put it in player stats, and change over some variable names here. So just to be entirely certain, when we die, we also set can move back to being true. In case there's edge cases where something weird happens and you get locked out of movement, the easy fix is just jumping and landing back on the ground. That fixes it, but we don't want that to have to be the case. This seems the easiest and most direct way to fix. Okay, please kill me. Yeah, no, that makes sense. Your spawn location should by default be set if you... Okay, we learned the thing here today. Hold on. At begin of the level, we need to tell the level manager dot spawn location to be equal to our transform position, so that we don't get yeeted into the void if we haven't hit a checkpoint yet. That makes sense to me. Please kill me. Thank you. Okay, that works like a charm. Now, the dropping of the experience shouldn't be that difficult, because we can literally just, in the player stats, add a serialized field for a game object, XP orb. Then when we die, before we get set to a different location, we just instantiate our XP orb at our transform position. We're actually going to add a vector 3 up multiplied by 5 to that, so that it spawns up a little higher than we are, so that it doesn't clip through the floor. It'll just fall back down. And quaternion identity. And we'll make sure that we have a variable for that. So game objects orb, and then orb dot get component XP orb, and then we can just XP count equals our current XP, and then our XP will be set to 0. We don't need to do an equals equals, just a normal equals is plenty good enough there. So now we should also drop a XP orb with the amount of experience that we had when we die. Of course, we do need to put in our XP orb into this game object section. So let's test whether or not I missed something, because knowing my luck, good chance that I did. Okay, you get out of the way because I actually need to get some experience before this. I forgot, it's the jump that I made myself. You need to dash in order to make this jump. That's the entire point of this jump. Where's the enemy? Now I actually do want you to kill me. Though, if you are in the first room, that actually saves me a bit of walking, so I can deal with that. I can damage myself and you can kill me. Drops my XP orb, I can pick it back up, and there we go. So far all this is going very well. Next part we need is to make sure that the XP orbs we drop, only one of them exists at a time. So if we die a second time, the previous one gets deleted. That is definitely something that we're going to go through the level manager on a level reload. Public void set new orb, game object orb. Then we'll do an if statement. So if our XP orb is not equal to null, we'll set our XP orb to equal orb. Else we'll first destroy XP orb and then set our new one there. So we'll change this to set new orb. Luckily we don't actually need it to have experience at the moment to spawn a new one. So we can just regularly checkpoints, kill myself, that spawns an XP orb, kill myself again. That does not do what it needs to do. It doesn't destroy the last one. We want to check if it is equal to null, not if it is not equal to null. Mistakes can be made, okay? Shit happens. That's our XP orb. We fucking died. Now we die again. I think that's a new one. But let's die over here and see. Yeah, so only one of these exists at a time now. And then we'll also make a public void reset level, in which we'll get a public list of game objects, which we'll call enemy list, new list game objects. That's fine. Every enemy will add itself to this list when it gets spawned, so that when we reset the level, we can say we go through a for loop of that. All seems correct to me. And then we can just destroy enemy list index I. We'll also want a public list for the spawners, which brings me back to my spawner script, which is somewhere in here, I believe. And we should have a integer for current wave. We'll make that a public one instead. And we'll also go through a for loop for that one, in which we set the spawner list index I dot, what did we call it? Wave something? Current wave. Oh, hold on. This doesn't need to be game objects. This is monster spawner list. And then also spawn wave, which apparently is not public. So that's easily fixed as well. Okay, so all right, two things to test here. Number one, is our reset system going to work? And number two, do these fuckers all spawn XP orbs now? Because I'm still a little concerned as to why they didn't before. That one did, and I just picked it up immediately, it seems like. So I'll give you that. That one did as well. Okay, so far 3 for 3. Just need to kill one of these and then let myself get killed. The enemies are very clunky, by the way. Okay, now please kill me. My aerial recovery is no longer working for whatever reason. I still have the ability to kill myself. I don't know why I'm not using that. Okay, so we're back at the start. We've dropped a experience orb with the 140 experience we had. This one's still gone. As you can see, we didn't reload the level, we just reset our position. The enemy here is gone, as I expected, so things being as expected, always a nice thing. Didn't make the fucking jump. Moment of truth. Do we have 3 enemies walking around here or more? We only have 3. That means it works. Our Dark Souls respawning system works. We've got 140 experience back. This kind of went down without a problem. That's amazing. It also means that our respawn system is finished now. Fantastic. There's less and less to do before we have to actually start working on the RPG elements of this game, which scares me. Like, we have the actual save system, but at this point I feel like we should make the leveling system before the save system, because the save system is going to have to incorporate our levels. So next time's gonna be quite something.